Elizabeth Scalia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Natalia.
Elizabeth, tell me, what inspired you to write this rosary prayer specifically for people who are unemployed?
I have one of my sons had been unemployed for close to 2 years. Thankfully, he just recently got a job, and very entry level. But at this point, everybody's grateful for any job they can get, and we are certainly grateful. And as I was praying the rosary for him and his intention, it occurred to me that these sorrowful mysteries beautifully express what Jesus was going through, obviously, but they also express what our recent unemployed are going through. You know, the sense of being stranded and abandoned, the sense of isolation that one has when the paycheck has disappeared, and well, even just thinking, for example, in the first mystery where Jesus is praying and he's alone, and the people around him who he would hope would understand either don't understand or they're asleep, and he's all alone facing a road that's not of his own choosing, and that's precisely what's happening when you've been laid off or the job has disappeared.
One of the prayers, you encourage people to remember the humiliation that Jesus felt as well as he was carrying the cross when they themselves are suffering from humiliation of unpaid bills or maybe being rejected when they apply for jobs. How did you tie the two together?
Well, I mean, there's a whole sense of, if you think about the mystery of Jesus, being publicly whipped, and the whole world is kind of there observing this. And when you're in a situation where now you have to go to unemployment, you have to stand on those lines, that's like a public bleeding out. You're completely exposed. You're completely vulnerable. And I think when people are going through this, if they can have the anchor of remembering that nothing they're going through is unknown to Jesus, and they can go to him and they can talk to Christ about all of this and place their burdens with him, because it is the same burden, in a different way. They're both encountering, everyone is encountering the same kind of public exposure and humiliation that Jesus encountered, when he was basically being publicly tortured. And then you can go into the fourth mystery, the carrying of the cross. And I think it's particularly interesting to think about, this carrying the cross. Jesus must have felt like this is never going to end. How is this going to end? When you're living on, these extended benefits and things, there's that sense of, okay, but what's going to happen at the end of the road? This is a stopgap, but I'm still feeling really afraid. And again, this is something that Jesus, in this mystery, completely you can identify with Jesus here, and you can talk to him.
What do you think people will gain, or what do you hope they gain by praying this particular version of the Rosary?
Through him, with him, in him, we can still rise again. And I think that's what I want people to take from this. Yes, the sorrowful mystery was terrible. It ended in the death of Jesus Christ. But if we remember the rest of the story, from Christ's death on that awful Friday came finally the sweetest of Sundays. And, yes, we're going through this, but if we can remember that Jesus rose again, we can remember that this is going to end. Things don't go on forever. I think most Catholics, even if they don't know the Rosary, lapsed Catholics, they still know the story. They still can envision the story in their head of, the agony in the garden, the trial before Pilate, the scourging. If any of them saw the Passion of the Christ, how can they not know that? The walk with the cross, the crucifixion. These 5 things, they're ingrained in our Christian memory, and so they should be, they could possibly draw those up from their own memory and ponder those things, and then really talk to Jesus on that road. Say, Jesus, I saw you, carrying this cross, and I'm carrying mine right now, and I saw you talking to the women, and I'm trying to talk to my family. Open up the gospel and read it, and bring yourself into that. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. That's the bottom line of everything. The angels say it over and over in Scripture. There is nothing to be afraid of.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth Scalia.
Thank you.